right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Big Talk About Small Business. I'm here in the studio with my co-host, Eric Howerton, and a very special guest today. We've got Tom Gordon, who is the founder and CEO of Slim Chickens.
Hi there.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Man, it's good to have you here. We're going to have a great episode this time.
Oh, we are.
This one actually might be a good podcast.
I know. Well, we got one of the most successful business-building entrepreneurial guests I think we've had on the show.
Yes.
Without question. And
unless you put you, myself, and a few other folks together.
No. Yeah.
I'll happily take the distant third. That's totally fine.
But no, Tom's company, you have now, you've gone basically in 20 years.
Yes.
From one to, 286 locations, something like that?
Maybe 289 now. We're open about one a week right now.
Wow. It is amazing.
I just want to point out something. That means that Mark did a little bit of homework and fact-checking.
Yeah, you did.
That's impressive,
Is that rare?
bro.
I just have a good memory, truthfully, for certain things. Okay, business stuff and numbers I remember. Okay?
That's true.
Things my wife says to me,
I'm out.
I get in trouble for that. But no, Tom has been very successful building this company, and I just want to say I think it's a great product.
Thank you.
There are so many different chicken places out there, and you see new ones come on the market, and you're like, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Mm-hmm. And you guys have managed to really do that. And I think part of that has been just having a superior product.
I think so, too. I mean, it's a crowded space and is much more crowded today than it was 20 years ago when we first started.
That's true.
But, we have the product. We own, great sauces and, variety in sauces. And that's been the foundation. Then we just got to stay ahead with restaurants, marketing, stores, service, all the things you got to do to run the restaurant business. But the product's always foundational. I laugh and joke with people all the time because we all have been to some barbecue restaurant that's dirty and slow,
right?
Yeah. But the food's amazing.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be dirty or slow, and I don't think we are. But the food is still the bedrock which brings people in, and that's the main key.
It's still true.
Well.
Because like actually to that point, like you go to those and there's actually an experience because the food was so good.
And the place was so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like you're like, there was something special about it,
But it is true. I mean, the consistency that you guys are able to put out what you do. I mean, I've never had like an inordinately long wait time. Mm-hmm. I've never had my order screwed up at the window, which it routinely at other places with a drive-up window. I mean, some of them it's wrong half or more. And some of those are some big chains.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, we're certainly not perfect. We have plenty of problems, and, humans are fallible, and that's just an issue. And I require all of my top-level executives to receive all the negative comments in their email. So everybody has to read them and sift through them.
Wait, say that again. I didn't really.
I like that.
You require all your top executives
to receive via email all the negative comments that come in.
Oh, so they come into corporate and you push them back.
And they go to everybody. We all see them.
Oh, the whole group. It's like, oh, wow. It's like a 360 thing, right?
Yeah. So,
don't disconnect from the customer.
It can be a bit depressing sometimes, some days. But what we don't do is we don't turn on the positive comments, which is fortunate for us because there's so many more, it would just flood everybody's email.
Yeah.
But we try to attack the negative comments and the problems. And look, we get an order wrong every now and then. We get a drink wrong every now and then. Sometimes it's long. But generally, I think what you experience is right and exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm. How did you create that kind of a culture? Because obviously, the business you're in is very competitive. You can't just pay whatever you want to pay people to get really the best people in the field, I would think.
Yep.
Especially based on your prices, which are very competitive. So how do you do that?
Well, to get the people to buy into the culture of what we're trying to accomplish, it's always got to be more than the hourly wage or the salary, right? Mm-hmm. It's got to be, what are we delivering to the community? And all these things are so business cliche, but cliches are there for a reason because they're generally true, you have to make it about a team and a family and a commitment inside that restaurant to deliver the products the people want to the community that's outside of that restaurant. And we always talk about you got to own your 2 miles. Like you want to be catering to the schools and the churches and town halls, and you got to make sure that the customers that live there know who you are. And from there, you branch out beyond the 2 miles and you start really building the brand. But in our business, we're proud to be a job for younger people, the first job people have often,
right?
The way they break into the restaurant business. And we don't shy away from that. Like, people that's come into our restaurants at 17 or 18, we try to hire at 18. We have a few 17s, but, at 18 or 19 or whatever and want to work, we're happy to have them there. And we know that they may not be there when they're 30 or even 25, but that's okay. We are working through the community. We want to be a part of it. And I get lots of people come up to me like, hey, I worked at one of your restaurants 8 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's super. Like, I think it's wonderful. And I'm glad to be a part of that ecosystem of kind of first jobs, entering the workforce and helping people do what they want to do.
I applaud that and also agree to an extent that where, like, there's something, like, we're all been in business, right? And there's a lot of things that aren't the most rewarding things along the way. But I would say that what's always been the most rewarding thing to me is to watch people grow, and become more than what they thought they could be, right? In a way, or they didn't really understand. Right. But you can actually point them in a trajectory. There's just something fantastically rewarding to that. To me, that's why I like.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
and I in my younger days, I was doing a lot more of that because I didn't have as big as organization.
You're on the front lines.
Yeah, and we're on the front lines. And I kind of look back and I was a little hard on some people, pretty tough in the beginning, and I could take them to the edge of sanity. But then they realize what they can do.
That's it, right?
People ask me that question, like, what would you tell your younger self? Like, I say not to be as tough or as much of a prick. But then you wonder, like, would you have gotten here if you would not have been so hard as nails to get what you had to do to survive?
That's true.
It's hard to know.
That's true. That is so true. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know you went to TCU,
I
right?
did. Went to TCU. Yeah. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, you grew up in Little Rock. Okay.
I went to Central High, public school kid, and went to TCU in Fort Worth. Had a great time there. Got a finance and real estate degree. Okay. And I went to work for Merrill Lynch back when Merrill Lynch was a thing, not Bank of America, thinking that I would be a wealth advisor, stockbroker guy. Back then, before there was a no-call list, my job was to cold call old folks for bonds, which was terrible. Yeah. And, and after 2 weeks of that, the bond book goes out the window, and I need to have a job. So I went to work for a restaurant. I moved back to Little Rock, and I worked for the breaker flagged macaroni grill concept back when Mac Grill was a big thing, and
growing,
and it was fun. I learned a ton in that restaurant, and you really kind of learned it. And from there, I went on and worked for a few years in Los Angeles at Sunset Conglomerate Restaurants. We had the Miyagi sushi bars and Sutter's chop houses.
How did you end up from Little Rock to L.A.?
Well, there interesting story, but. In my macaroni grill time, they wanted me to move to a different market and do a bigger job.
Right.
And, it was an entrepreneurial itch that I didn't know that it was. I couldn't have articulated it then, but I just didn't want to do it. I was afraid of the paycheck, really. I mean, I was going to have a house payment and a car payment. I'm like, man, I'm going to get trapped. And, they were going to pay me a fortune, like, $31,000 a year. I was about to be rich.
Right? No.
Set. But
that's funny.
But I just didn't want to do it. And I knew some TCU guys that were in LA, and I thought, I'll go out there and carve out a life out there for myself, try it out and be out there, and which I did. I
love LA.
Had a great time out there.
Yeah.
Did almost 4 years. But then halfway through that time, and Greg Smart, my co-founder, and I started talking about this concept. And he had seen some of the early ones on the East Coast and in the South and said, look, no one's doing this right. I think, and no one's doing it in Northwest Arkansas at the time. I mean, there wasn't anybody doing it up here. Said he was doing retail stuff. He said, come back, let's combine forces. You're doing restaurants, I'm doing retail. Let's put it together and do this right and create a brand that that we want to have that we're proud of.
So how did you know Greg before that?
Man, we were all high school troublemakers.
Yeah, I got you.
Duck hunting buddies together. And
I think I had his girlfriend in my very first class I taught at the Walton College. She was a friend of my ex-wife's little sister.
Okay.
That's who I think it was.
Sounds like
And she grew up. Yeah, she grew up in Bentonville, Bella Vista. But anyway, that was great. I think that was his.
Anyway, he's been a great part. We're still partners. He's in the office with me, and it's been partnerships are hard, as we all know.
Yeah.
Sure.
We've had a great 21-year run.
You guys had 4 partners, I thought, at one point, didn't you?
No,
Early on, it was just the 2 of you.
we had a third guy that was with us at the very beginning, but
Okay.
but
maybe
for the
that was
vast majority of our 21 years, it's just
two of
been the
you.
2 of us. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool. Like that combination is just interesting looking back, right? You got a retail person and then a restaurant. You bring that together. There's going to be some magic in that, with that kind of understanding experience.
There was, we didn't know it at the time, but yes,
both.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. Greg kind of took the retail merchandising, branding, the visceral and visual experience of the guest is what he was always great at. And I took the operational stuff and some of the finance stuff, but I can make an order, I can make a schedule, I knew how to organize a restaurant, knew how to get it going, and all the other bits and pieces. But, we all did everything, just the 2 of us for years.
So when you guys got together, you both moved back to Northwest Arkansas, and then how did you start your first restaurant? Like what was that time span? Like how did you actually? Because that's one of the bigger barriers for
getting going. Yeah, people talk, plan, but they don't do.
Yeah, not 100%. For us, it was truly like a wing and a prayer. Like
no pun intended with the wing.
No pun intended.
Now, was North College the first location?
First location?
That's what I thought.
Still there.
Yeah.
They're still cranking out dollars and doing fine.
Yeah.
Now, that building is 60 or 70 years old.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. Something breaks in there every week, But, it's there. It's the first one. It's iconic.
Yes.
We're due to do another remodel on it soon. It's, it's always kind of falling apart. But, it's where we started.
Do y'all own that building?
No, we don't. The guy, I wish we did. I ask him every year, you want to sell it? He goes, nah.
Yeah.
So you guys got that thing going. Did you have a family at that point in time?
I did not. And
okay,
it's a good thing because
made it a little easier. Yeah,
when you're working 100 hours a week and not making any money, it's tough to support people. Like I look back and wonder how we did it. Like, we'd grab a $20 bill out of the register on Fridays and buy a 6-pack of beer and eat chicken that we cooked ourselves, and that was it. I mean, that was
no kidding.
That was one of the pros of having a restaurant. You could eat.
You could eat.
That's
the truth.
That is such a common theme, though. I think for so many successful people, is you start out, you got nothing, and you live on nothing.
Oh,
if you're smart,
you live on nothing, and you play this whole shell game with all the credit cards.
I love it. We call that the dance,
and
I call it floating.
And Greg and I would sit there like, "Hey man, I got to pay this one this month. Can you wait 2 weeks?" And I mean, we did this for years.
Sure, I understand.
I love when I talk to I'll tell Arvis, and I told a group of them. I probably shouldn't, but I was like, "Look, back in the day, I mastered 7:01 p.m. on a Friday. I knew I had till 6:59 on a Monday. I had an extra $200 in overdraft carried, and you wouldn't penalize me on." I was like rich for the weekend, man.
Man, that was you depended on that.
Hell yeah! But then a Monday morning, and the first thing I was doing is calling and collecting whatever bills I get. Hey man, Mark, can you pay that $500 invoice that's been out for about 6 months?
Well, we did the exact same thing. And I had a great banker that really kind of bent the rules and helped me. But we did the same thing because we'd have payroll on Friday. We'd say you can't go to get paid until after 6.
Right.
That's when you pick up your checks.
Paper checks too. Don't want to do electronic because that comes faster.
We would pay for groceries or bills, and I would call my banker who took care of me. I said, "Listen, I paid a bunch of money, but none of it's going to clear. but if you can hang on until Monday, we'll have sales from the weekend. We'll have Saturday and Sunday going in the bank."
Boom.
It'll be good, man.
I mean, just look at the history, how this has worked out every week for the last 2 weeks.
I mean, everybody, I saw something on Facebook from somebody I don't even know, but he's a quote friend. But anyway, it said, don't ever start a restaurant, we did it and it failed or whatever. And you hear people say
All the time. All the time.
You know, so what possessed you? I mean, yeah, you worked for some companies that knew how to do it right, that
Correct.
had a real system. But here you are, a guy with a finance and real estate degree from a good school, TCU.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to go into a business that has a high failure rate and a low inherent margin?
You know, it's interesting. People ask that question. And I think it's because with all the things I've done, like, you know, getting into TCU,
Right.
which, you know, stretch and paid for from my family. I didn't grow
It's
up
a
with
lot
a
of
ton.
money. TCU is expensive.
And then, you know, moving to California, like, and then starting a restaurant company, like, you know, if it's not borderline impossible, it's not really interesting to me. So, you know, we're like,
you like proving people wrong.
yeah, I like proving people wrong.
Yeah.
But also, if there is a way to create sustainable income, and then eventually, you know, we hoped years ago, sustainable wealth from it, then all the better.
Sure.
But a lot of it for me, whether it's restaurants or whatever we do, is, you know, I managed to get away with really not ever having a boss
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yes, I
And
understand.
that was always, the freedom was always what I craved.
Yeah.
And Greg and I always said, you know, if we could ever make any money at this lifestyle would be great. But, you know, but now it's you know, it's been much different. I laugh and joke that we were broke for the first 10 years we did this. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, broke. But we kept it together and persevered, and the second half's been great.
So you guys, when you set out, when you started the first restaurant there in North College, was it part of your vision to grow this into the international company that it is today? Or was that just something that kind of opened up as a possibility as you went along?
I mean, we were young guys. I mean, we were just 28, 29 years old when we did the first one. And we always wanted it to be big. We thought we didn't want to do one restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if we could have defined what big was. Is that 10? Is it 50? Like, you know,
Yeah.
we were just trying to survive.
Sure.
But we did believe after seeing some other restaurants around, like, you know, Chick-fil-A was going at that time, and there was some Zaxby's stuff. They're older than us. And like, I mean, if we could do this right, and I remember thinking, if we could ever have 10 restaurants that were working, we'd be set.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sure.
But
Make enough. Yeah.
But the ability, again, to kind of control your own destiny and be your own boss and not have anybody control your time
sure.
was the most compelling piece of the puzzle. And, you know, and now it's great,
Yeah. When was the
as you all know.
Yeah, no, I mean there is. I mean
there's a payoff.
It's a bloodbath, though. I think that, you know, like when we do this show, like Mark, I mean, it's like there's some realism here that I think that people might skip over if they're thinking about being an entrepreneur. They don't like when we say it was hard. We're not saying it was just a hard job. We're saying that, like, literally, in my experience, it was like devastatingly difficult to the point, and highly risk. You know, lots of risk. No understanding. You know, you would get some support here and some wins there every once in a while, but it was at the
Generally, you're alone.
yeah. It's at the clip hanging moment, right? Like, you know, seriously, I need this, right? But I mean, you know, I think that it's just important for people to recognize that, because, you know, a lot of this. I mean, would you agree with this, Tom? Like, where I think a lot of the business, in my experience, has been more about emotional intelligence as much as anything else. Like the ability to see vision and you have all these problems that are stacked up, but you're able to persevere through that with that attitude and that drive when numbers don't make sense.
Yes, of course, because the numbers never make sense in the beginning. I mean, everybody's woefully undercapitalized, and that's true. You got to press through and prioritize problems. So I always say, like, you know, I tell my guys still, I said, you have the right to prioritize. Please do so.
Love that.
And, you know, that getting through it is the key.
You know, that is, you just made a statement that I think is very interesting. Everybody's woefully undercapitalized. I think that is very important for your long-term success in business, because you develop a discipline you would not have if you guys started out. We're going to go raise a bunch of money. Here's our thing. We got $5 million. We're going to open up 10 Slims, okay? You would not have built the discipline and the systems that allow you to be as successful as you are now.
Well, I was going to say, the second piece of that is everybody is woefully undercapitalized, and those who are not typically burn through their money and fail.
Exactly.
And
it's not a blessing to have the money.
It's generally not. And it just,
yeah.
You'd think it would be, I can be disciplined, but
it's like being a rich kid. You don't develop the work ethic.
Those who've started, they just rip through it, and then suddenly it's over. And that's tough.
Yep. So I think, they always say that the number one reason for business failure is inadequate capitalization. I think that's bull.
I agree.
I really, it's like...
It's inadequate vision.
Yeah.
Inadequate problem-solving skills.
Yes.
Inadequate work.
Yes. Long and hard and smart, fast work. Yep.
But so back on Slims though. What do you like to call the business when you refer to it as the full name in order to be consistent in your branding, or do you call it Slims or
like me or just or anybody?
Anybody. What do you guys? Is there like some mandate in house that you passed down?
There's no mandate
because Mark likes to call it Slims.
Everybody does.
I know it's not really, but
you hear people say Slims chicken, which is not what we have.
Right.
It's Slim Chickens with an S. But that ambiguity is, I think, been good for us. Like, is it possessive? Is it a name? I don't know. What is it? But
it's obviously a play on words,
which lends itself to the whole the short-term vernacular Slims, which everybody says. I mean, everybody in any market, once we get into a market, that's what they call it.
Yeah. What is the fascination? It seems like chicken today is absolutely taken over. Like when we were kids, it was burgers.
Right.
You had KFC out there.
Sure.
That was it. That Chick-fil-A didn't exist as far as I knew. Like it wasn't anywhere I lived as a kid. But today, it's the chicken. On campus, where a couple nights a week, I eat there because I teach at night.
Yeah.
The only two places that have these unbelievable lines are Slim's and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
The rest of the food services have almost nobody there.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Is it like health consciousness, that it's not as cholesterol laden as beef, or what is it?
I think that the first thing is typically just tenders are easy, and chicken sandwiches are pretty easy to manage. I mean, burgers are too, of course. But the ease of the use with, I think, the perception of health, and I think it's there's less calories and less fat than beef. I mean, that's a fact, right? Does it make a giant amount of difference? Hard to know, but I believe it to be healthier than beef. I'm willing to eat chicken 4 or 5 times a week, where I'll eat a burger maybe once, maybe not, right? But of course, we're all older too. We can't do that.
We can't eat like we used to.
Your process, though, the way you guys fry seems healthier to me than the other guys. There's less fried coating.
We have light breading, which doesn't hold that oil.
Yes,
and the flavor healthier. You can tell we use a non-trans fat oil. We could go cheap and use a cheaper one, but it has trans fat and the cloudy stuff in it that you don't really want. So look, it is fried, but it's not terribly unhealthy. It is good. It's a good quality protein that is, there's no political or religious veto on chicken. There is on beef.
Well, that's a good point.
And that it allows us to appeal to everybody.
Well, Chick-fil-A has that cross to bear, no pun intended. Okay. I mean, there are people I know who will only eat there because of their policies and practices, and there are people I know who will never eat there because of their policies and practices. They seem to have been successful in spite of the objections, but it is interesting that you made that comment. You're agnostic.
Yes. Like, for example, we want to be agnostic. I want to appeal to everybody. I don't want to be politicized. I just, no way. We're here to sell food. I want you to be satisfied, and I want you to come back.
We can all agree we like
and that's it.
Good food, right?
Y'all not disagree, right?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, though, I said this to Tom once, I think, in a email or text, but I love your mushrooms.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
You guys, you cannot. Most people don't know. I think that you even offer them.
No, they're on the menu. I mean, but
I tell people, have you tried the mushrooms over at Slim's? They're so good.
Like the fried mushrooms?
Yeah, because they don't use like a pre-battered mushroom.
We do it all by hand.
It's so good.
I think that so many people, and we've been in Northwest Arkansas for 20 years, they just know what they want. Like, you listen to the drive-thru, it's like, some plate, honey mustard, go on.
Yeah, right. That's
And
what
then, look at the menu,
Yeah.
But yes, those products are great. The fried pickles are amazing. We still
Oh, they are good. You guys do it. Really good
but we
job.
do a lot of that everywhere around the country. But I appreciate you saying so. I think the mushrooms are amazing.
When you were like rewinding back to like your first store, or your first restaurant, what do you think? Like if there is an entrepreneur listening here, they're about to get something going, or maybe in the middle of their kickoff, what do you think were some key decisions that you guys made that allowed you to get over those startup hurdles? Like, I mean, it can be really generalized. I mean, but what helped you get through that painful era?
Well, there are key decisions that we made kind of midway through that allowed us to get a lot bigger. But in the beginning, I think the key to our success in the beginning was mostly the fact that Greg and I were inside the store every single day. We just saw the guests. If something was wrong, we could fix it.
Yep.
And we had this totally ridiculous schedule where I'd work on Mondays and he'd be at this little office, one any bigger than this table probably, trying to pay bills. Mm-hmm. Tuesday we'd switch. One of us was there at night. And then we'd both there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was so busy. Sunday, one of us goes half office morning, and then we'd switch, and the other guy had half office at night. And Monday, so there's no days off. Like you're in the restaurant or a little box about this big every day. And we did that for 2-3 years. So that means there was not. I mean, of course, every now and then, like, hey, I'm leaving for a day or two, and you cover it. But generally, week to week, it was every single day.
Yeah,
for years. I mean, every day. And look, some people, and this is not a disparagement, just they'd rather have their job and know they can hang it up at 5 o'clock.
Oh, I know.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to sign up for this and do something that could be, I think, amazing and great, it often takes a further commitment.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a lot of people believing in you in those times? Like, were your bankers there ready to help you, or
Hell no. Like, what ready to help? Like, what banker is ready to help?
Well, I think it's an important thing, right? Like, I mean, because I found myself going, what the hell is wrong here? Like, this is not what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Is what happens, right? Like, it becomes frustrating because, you would talk to folks, and if you hear the word no over and over again, right? Like, that can be really demotivating for people. But if you're in an entrepreneurial space, like, I don't know, I found that like the no's would encourage me, would actually make me, like what you said earlier, prove them wrong a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we tried to. We had a business plan, and we're going to go borrow money, and we went to every bank in the city of Fayetteville. Everyone said no. One guy laughed at me, asked me how old I was, and told me to get the hell out of his office.
Oh, my God.
That is a fact.
I hope that guy regrets it now. That he treated you like that.
And because this is such a public forum, I won't name the guy, but I often have. And I said, look, if you would like your dreams to be killed, go see this banker.
Yeah, that's funny. I want to hear who that is at some point just to see if I know.
I think that's the point, though, right? Like, I mean, like, there's something to the fact that where most people are taught, okay, you want to start your own business, they can learn all these different things, these pro formas, and they do all this work, and then they start going out trying to exercise that, and you're going to get doors put in your face.
Always.
But you and Greg were able to
bootstrap it.
To make sure, but you hear those words like "get the hell out of my office." How old are you guys? Right? I mean, man, that's pretty freaking raw and
I never heard
negative.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But then to be able to walk from that situation and then show up to work is a big deal.
We stood up and I said, "I'm 28 and fuck you." That's what I said.
That's funny.
And that right there is the entrepreneur. That right there.
So you touched on something that struck a chord with me, though. I think all of us would agree. I read a lot of stuff all the time, and like all of us, I'm just reading. And you see, like, this government program's going to help small business, or this business failed because of the such and such tax policy or whatever. I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot of bull. Where, I don't feel like I've ever been put out of business by the government nor helped by the government. Either one. It's like whatever they do, fine. I've got to make it work.
I would agree with that 100%. People ask me all the time, like, is the election going to do anything for you? The answer is that no. Like, what's really going to happen? Maybe 24 months later, there's a tiny adjustment to tax policy. I mean, who knows? But does it change the day-to-day business?
No.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Keep your head down.
Right. Just you got to succeed in spite of all that.
You got to succeed in spite of it. And we talk about this a lot in our world and in my office with my team. Because look, the like what has impacted us is like the current economic environment and higher interest rates. I mean, not to this giant detriment, but what we have is money costs more.
Sure. Yep.
Construction's expensive, as you well know.
Yeah, that hurts your growth.
And so because of that, we have franchisees, not all, but some that say, hey, can I wait 6 months to do my next store? Can I do it next year? And nobody's running away, but like there's just sort of management of pipeline and how you deal with the dollars.
Yes.
So that is impactful, but I don't really fault it. It's not wholly unnecessary. I mean, it just sort of is what it is. And typically what we've seen over 21 years is you have an 18-month or 24-month kind of clunky cycle, which we're right in, and then you have a 3 or 4 year pretty good one.
Yeah.
Now, can I guarantee that? No, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm already seeing, just recently, like construction, inputs have been going down a bit. Commodities going down, interest rates going down. So I see a good year next year.
Starting to,
I see it starting to kind of come back to normal. But we say that that's a real thing. But I say that doesn't make any difference to the guests. They don't care.
Right.
External excuses are meaningless. Like we still have to find a way for our franchisees to make money, build restaurants, and we got to support them.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what's going on outside.
Well, the great thing about your business, too, is, I mean, if you just kind of take the macro view, people got to eat. And you're not expensive. So it's like you've got a really good, formula there for sustainability. Just as sort of an
I think so. We've had some price raises in the last 18 months that just to cover the inflationary cost of products. And
it's still
poultry's been expensive.
Everybody's had that.
I mean, everybody's had it. But you still see a little traffic blips when anytime you raise price. And, the burger segment's down a whole lot this calendar year. And, we're actually moving up. It's been a pretty good year. Last year was a little trickier for us. But, you still got to do it. You got to deal with it. And even with our, I think, very reasonable good pricing, whenever you pop it up a bit, you see a tiny little retraction in traffic, and you got to build it back. But we know that, and that's fine.
I want to ask you a question that hopefully you'll answer it the way that I believe. But you're just mentioned like the macroeconomics are not really affecting you. You just keep your head down. You just roll with it, right? And that's not really what's impacting. But is there something that's a little bit broader that might be impacting your business that's not necessarily economical, or maybe even law changes or whatever it might be? But have you seen something that goes on from like the broader level that does actually impact your business that you have to counteract with?
From a broad level, the answer is no. I mean, not anything that just has this massive wave of change. The rate, the kind of the policy of raising minimum wage, kind of and having it set for 3 years, regardless of the economic environment around you.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't want to get political, but I think it is crazy. I mean, it eliminates jobs. I mean, that is a fact.
You just can't legislate a higher standard of living.
You can't.
Everything will just go up then. I mean,
and so what we have to do is the same thing. It eliminates jobs. And look, and I'm no crazy right-wing conservative by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
But that is an issue. And we pay people, I think, very well, but we pay them well when they advance in their careers, when they become indispensable. We want to be able to do it. That's totally fine. But legislating, and especially having it, throwing that stone 3 years out when you don't know what's going to be going on, that has an impact. It has an impact on franchisees and what we do.
It's like rent control. It doesn't work. You can't just say you can't charge more rent. What's going to happen? They won't spend any money on the building.
Right.
So you got to pay more for labor. What do? We hire less labor. That's or raise prices.
And
there's only so far you can go with that.
And it's not. You got to find your ways around that to survive and make the margin work for the franchisee. And remember, we're in the service business. We're taking care of franchisees.
Yeah,
right.
And that's happened in more than one municipality. And we're like, okay, we got to plan this out 3 years in advance. Like, what's it going to impact? And then suddenly you have then in the third year, interest rates go way up, and then it's really problematic. That's one issue that I have seen. But I wouldn't tell you that I wouldn't hang my hat on labor. That's not an hourly wage. It's like anything that's sort of legislated into the future without any consideration of what the future may look like causes problems.
Because you could have compounding effects.
Yeah, there's compounding effects. Yes.
Makes it bad.
I got 2 questions for you that I've always wondered. One is, like, when I go to McDonald's in New York City and buy my Big Mac or whatever, it doesn't really cost any more significantly than I pay here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. How the heck can they do that when you know the rent is staggeringly high and the labor cost is higher?
Well, I'd argue that it's probably a little more, but you're not paying attention, like 50 cents or 80 cents.
Sure, it's a little bit more. Yeah, it is a little more.
And the math, that little bit more with a quadrupling of volume makes it work.
Okay, so the volume's just so much higher in these places.
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously in some higher cost locations,
for sure.
And so I just wondered about that. I guess the other thing I wondered about is you've made this push into international markets now. What motivated you to do that versus saying, obviously this is a huge country,
right?
We could quadruple the size of the company, and never leave the confines of the lower 48,
right?
What's possessing you to go international?
It's funny. Every international experiment we've done, every international effort we have been a part of has come to us first through some person we know, some connection of one of my partners or one of my, C-level guys, and they've come to us and they see the brand somewhere. Typically, the international piece of the puzzle has really gotten big because we have a big presence now in London, and it's great for me. I get to go to London several times a year. It's fun. Love London.
Yeah.
But everybody goes to London, so people see it, and then they call us, say, "What is this? Where are you from?"
It's the hub of the world.
Blah, blah, Yeah. And so we have an opportunity to capitalize on just that positioning in the major city in the world that people kind of centralize and go to.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that's allowed us to step into Europe, and we'll be into Asia, and then do the things that we're doing today. Now, was it a good idea back when we first started this? I don't know, maybe, but I'm glad we did it because the UK partners have been exceptional for us. They've been great. They're the tip of the spear with Europe, and they run great restaurants and allow us to go over there and host other people from other countries there. And it's been a great partnership, and they're I couldn't say enough about them.
Interesting.
How did you make that? Like, how did it happen specifically for London? Like, how did that actually come about?
We had, I think this is right. And it's been a long time, and there was lots of different connective points. But we had 2 restaurants in Kuwait that they were the first 2 international we ever did.
Kuwait?
In Kuwait, yes.
Wow.
And
that's interesting.
At some point before COVID, they were seen by our team in the UK because they have other restaurants in the Middle East, in Dubai, and I think in Kuwait too. They're up there for some reason.
Yeah.
So they saw the brand, liked it, and then found their way to us and contacted us. And I remember very clearly Sam and I were in the UK about to close the deal with the guys, and we had the 2 stores in Kuwait. And I said, man, should we be messing around with another country? Like, I think we had like 70 restaurants at the time or something, and plenty were, to your point, here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We said, look, let's do one more country, and let's work on it. There'll be plenty of work. And again, I am so glad we did. And so that, the Kuwait guys, we're still in touch with them, and they deserve the credit for having the first 2 and helping us get to the UK. So there's no bad blood there. The London group was capitalized, but they've been in business a long time. They're very sharp. They have lots of restaurants. And they've just done an amazing job.
It just seems like, as a franchisor, it would be hard to supply these overseas companies with the same stuff that you can give somebody here, whether that's training or whether that's all the packaging and everything else because of different laws and all. I mean, And just getting, like in a normal situation, I don't know, do you provide any food products to your franchisees or do they all buy their stuff?
No, part of the work when we go into a country is sourcing supply chain locally.
I would think that.
And so in most countries, especially in Europe, they don't import much food from the U.S. And the U.S. doesn't really either. I mean, it's, furniture is imported and electronics, but food typically isn't as much. But we do have to export talent and people and send folks over there to train, and they come over here to look at architecture and how you build and whatnot. But the exportation of talent and getting people over there and buying plane tickets is what we have to do.
Yeah.
But we help them source products. We'll do food shows. We'll test, the breading manufacturer over there or whatever, right? And then once we agree on the lineup, we just did this in another country. Okay, these are all approved products. And typically they're very similar.
Sure.
Now, every country has a little nuance and some oddball stuff that's on there. It's okay. But typically it's real similar. And if you go to the store in London in the UK, we have 58 in the UK, 59 in the UK now.
Wow. Did not know that.
Generally, it's going to taste the same. Tenders are great. Fries are great. Sauces are very similar. They got a couple other sauces that we don't have here, but that's okay.
Because of the taste,
culture,
just preferences. I mean, I remember when we were doing the food show there, and they had this. What do they call it? Like garlic parmesan, but it was like this gross mayonnaise, and I'm like, and I looked at the guys, and I'm like, y'all can't sell this in my restaurant. This is bad. Yeah, and they're like, just let us try. Number one seller.
It's killing it.
I was wrong. Man, that's just
not Americans wrong. The local culture, right? It drives some of that stuff.
But generally, they barbecues, honey mustards, ranch, those sort of stuff. Yeah, it's great.
You guys have really good barbecue sauce. I've always liked it.
I agree.
I got a question. So I don't know that we've even ever really talked about on the show. The pain of starting up that hustle, right, and all those barriers. But then, what I don't think a lot of folks know, and I sure the hell didn't know until I hit it, was the second stage growth area, right? So you start up, you get one restaurant, so all those pains get that going, you get up to 2, 3. But then there's always this like glass ceiling that you can't see as an entrepreneur, and it's like the hell can I get past this line? And that requires a different level and a different type. That's more of that corporate management practices start coming in.
Oh, yeah. Now I see where you're going with this. It's like, does the entrepreneur have to step aside and hire the professional management?
Right. But the entrepreneur, there is a transition of the way that you're working and how you're doing that.
The entrepreneurs of these two are still with the firm.
Yeah, exactly. And so they made... I guess my point is you made it obviously through a second stage growth scenario, right? And you're still with it. And so it doesn't require somebody from outside, but I think that there's a transition in mindset thinking that you and Greg had to make. Can you remember when that second stage really hit and where the hurdles were?
Yeah, and it's funny, like we talk about this now because I think our company is at kind of a third stage now.
Agree.
And how do, because we were thinking about here we're about to hit 300 and we got to punch here there and go to 1,000.
Yeah.
Like that's the next section. And are we equipped with talent, people, diversity to do that? Like open question. But in the beginning, when we had 6, 7, 8 restaurants in Northwest Arkansas, people would start coming to us and saying, where did you buy this franchise?
Yeah.
And say, well, it's not, it's ours.
Yeah.
And we started getting real legitimate interest. And by legitimate, I mean not an out-of-work guy sending an email wanting to buy something that he can't afford.
Right.
What I mean is...
people with resources. Yeah.
What I mean is a group with 20 Subways or 50 Wendy's or 30 Sonics operators.
Right.
Who had capital,
experience,
ability, and experience. And those were the people we targeted because we didn't want to teach them the restaurant business. It's hard enough. But if they had people and capital and experience and wanted to plug in another brand to their portfolio, and often what would happen is they had built out whatever territory with name the brand, Wendy's.
Sure.
And they didn't have any more to do. Yeah. And they didn't want to hopscotch states or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But they can add another 10 restaurants in that same swath with us. And they can have their 20 Wendy's, they can have 10 or 12 Slims, and they may have 6 of this and 8 of that. But we're additive to the portfolio and additive to the cash flow of their enterprise.
Sure.
that model was what has worked for us the best.
Interesting.
And so to do that, when we started getting this legitimate interest, we found our chief financial officer, and then he helped us kind of get the dollar situation straightened up. He was the first big hire we ever made. He's still with us 13 years later.
That's cool.
And, good at forecasting and cash management and all things entrepreneurs aren't that good at. And then
I'm guilty.
Totally guilty. And then we, as the franchising kind of fervor kept growing, we found a guy named Sam Rothschild, who was the COO for Applebee's and was kind of the architect of their franchising system.
I see.
And it was perfect. He came in the office, and we had a good time. We laughed. We loved the guy immediately, and we toured the restaurants, and he wrote this big SWOT analysis up on the board, and he said, "This is good. This is good. This is good. We've got to fix this. We've got to change this. We've got to hire this guy, and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Well, okay. What'll it take to get you to stay here and do this?" And he goes, "Well, I know this was a job interview." I said, I didn't either, but I like you and I like the plan, so what'll it be? And we worked out a deal, and he's in with us. It was 11 years Monday.
So somebody who's experienced it.
Totally experienced.
The UFOC and all that, right?
Yeah.
Getting all
now it's
that
called the
worked
FDD,
out.
but yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And somebody who knew how to do that, knew the attorneys to do it, and had a Rolodex of people to call to start and kick us off, and to get the whole system organized. Because franchising is a systematized thing.
Yeah. It's a business in a can. It's what it should be.
And so our job is to support. Now, when chicken prices are high, like people get aggravated, and I wish I could control the chicken markets. I'd be a lot richer than I am today, but I cannot. But when things are good, things are great, and to build that system of support, that's what we're all about. That's what we live for.
So I think kind of your answer in summary is you started making key hires, the right key hires to kind of help get through that glass ceiling, right? And I agree with it. That's what happened in my experience too. Like J.S. Bull, my partner,
is pivotal to you.
Absolutely pivotal.
Yeah.
Like he was able to bring in and hone in direction.
Yes.
And put goals to the team, and was really a team player, like a true team leader, which, I'm just the crazy train that comes running in the door saying, "Let's do all this." And everybody's like, "Why?" But JS was able to take a lot of things, and that sounds like, it's kind of interesting. Would you share the same experience, Mark, like that there's there's these key hires, or there's people that join in that can help you lift over?
I think, obviously both of you guys did a good job at that. I think, though, what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs is they bring in enough of those people that at some point those people kind of get together, and it becomes us versus the entrepreneur. I've seen that phenomenon develop too, where it's like, well, he's too crazy, he's too radical. We're smarter, we're more planned. Why are they wanting to take that risk? And it's sort of, and the battle forms for control of the future direction many times. And sometimes the entrepreneur ends up exiting.
Right.
And sometimes this group takes over. Sometimes they do well. Sometimes they falter.
Yeah.
Because they don't realize that spark plug out there was really more essential than they thought.
Yes.
And you're still plugged in.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, we haven't found that, and I think the reason that we
must have seen that, though.
A little bit, but with the team that we have brought in, the C-level team, I think that we did a good job of giving them a real meaningful piece of the business. There's a meaningful carrot. Like destruction of the C-level team means destruction of everything, typically. And for us, we didn't want to do that. So everybody's aligned, organized, and going towards the same goals. Now, I think that
you've done a good job, clearly, to keep those key players.
Totally, yeah, I agree. That's actually a really, I agree.
But as we grow, we need more of them, though. And you find this other interesting paradox with the third wave. And this is an interesting one we've talked about a lot. Is like, to break through to the next level, what other C-level or leadership level, VP level, SVP level people do we need to be hungry and really chase a carrot at the end, because the current crew of guys suddenly after 21 years
they're in pretty good shape.
In pretty good shape.
It makes total sense. I can see that.
And you might
how are you going to motivate?
You might be a little too rich and a little too lazy to push the agenda.
Right. It's like, why take that risk? Yeah, I totally get it.
And so
how can you create that?
We have that discussion a lot. How do you create the next wave to go the whole way? Because and look, it's funny. It's not bad. It's just a paradox.
Yeah.
Like, I'm proud of the success we've had.
Right.
I'm proud that we're not broke 21 years later after doing
but
this.
It's human nature.
It's human nature.
Yeah, you can't change that, and people do get satisfied.
That's right.
Sure.
Well, you get satisfied. You get older. You get
risk averse.
You have family.
I'm much more risk averse now than I used to be.
Oh my
truthfully.
God. You look more tired after the end of the day.
That's all I think of.
Sleep as well.
That's all I think about now. Is that it's all my kids say. All you say, Dad, is about risk. Like, eliminate risk. I'm like, Dad, didn't you say that 20 years ago?
I know. Because you didn't have anything
Take all the risk in the world.
Because you had nothing to lose.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
That's
right.
the difference. Once you actually got something to lose, you're like, stop.
Yeah, you had nothing to lose.
Dude, that is so true. Right?
That is very interesting, and I think there's a lot of good lessons here for our listeners.
Oh, man.
Ready to level up your show? At podcastvideos.com, we offer industry-leading recording and expert marketing to help your show reach more listeners. From creation to distribution, we've got you covered. Visit podcastvideos.com and elevate your podcast today.
You know, to the journey that Tom's gone through. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a unique journey for Tom, but it's not unique in a lot of ways. There's a lot of commonality with some of the other successful people we bring in here. We look for successful business people. I'm so tired of everybody saying, we learn more from failure than we do success. Bullshit. Stop God saying that. Okay? It just pisses me off. Failure is painful. The goal is avoid it.
Amen.
Learn from other people.
Yeah.
Okay? Failure sucks.
Yeah, I've been broke and I've been not broke, and not broke is better.
Yes. but just to recap some of the things, you know, Tom made a lot. First off, he worked outside of the business, but in the same industry.
Yes.
From some bigger players, and you learned things.
I learned a ton.
You learned what you wanted to do, and you learned what they didn't want to do.
Invaluable education.
Right?
Yes.
That's super valuable. Then, you know, when they got into business, he had a good partner that had a different background. Okay, complementary, so they're not treading in each other's territory.
Yep.
Worked their asses off for 10 years, okay? Didn't bring in outside ownership.
Right.
8 freaking chicken strips
over
the weekend to survive the weekend.
So,
yes.
You know.
100%.
So that's piece number 2 right there, right? Piece number 3 is have a bigger vision for what the business can do, and then starting to bring in people who had experience in building a company like they wanted to build, that had the expertise to do that. The franchising person, the CFO who understands capitalization.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think, you know, that's a really good model, I think.
Yeah, and you know, the last piece of that puzzle, which you'll appreciate, was our chief marketing officer, who,
Sure,
because none of us, operations, finance, none of us knew anything about how to, you know, really run a P&L through good media and marketing, and so we finally got that piece. And once that whole crew was together, then it was gone.
That's great. How long has she been with you?
He was with us 8 years. So a long tenure.
You've had a very good, unusual, low turnover.
I got my ways to keep them all together.
That's nice, isn't it? I forgot the one fundamental thing in the recap. Start with a really good product that's very simple.
Yes.
You know, you've got a simple business in a way. I mean, at least you don't have like crazy menu.
But simple can be hard.
But do something.
Can be hard.
Yeah.
But you can't do everything well. You know, it's like I go into these Asian restaurants or whatever, and you look at this menu, and you're like, holy cow. There's no way this little hole in the wall.
And I want to order everything off of it.
Good, you know, or even like, you know, what is it? What's that crepe place? It started out, it's got a huge menu. I can't remember it. Anyway, Alzheimer's is kicking in. But no, you know, I think having that very simple menu and doing things really well inconsistently was the underpinning too of it to have a product that's just fundamentally good.
Before we exit, I do want to give Tom one big thank you to you and Greg. Thank you for taking really great sweet tea and spreading it across the country and now internationally, bro.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, the best sweet tea.
Yeah.
Amen.
You know
Amen.
what I'm saying? And I mean, there's a way to make it. I used to work in restaurants back in the day. You don't just throw sugar.
Oh, there's a way.
There is a way.
There's a way.
I hate it when I go to a restaurant. It's like, you got sweet tea? No, but we have sugar packets. I'm like,
Not
don't
the same.
have anything
Yeah,
close
you
to
don't
sweet
have
tea.
it.
No, you're out.
No.
You don't even know what I'm talking about. But
I go
because of
into
Tom
half
and Greg,
and half.
they're spreading the sweet tea message from Arkansas.
Spread the tea, or spread the dipping sauces, spread the variety.
I always mix the two when I go.
Well,
Cheesecake Factory. That's what I was trying to think of. Their menu is so
it's huge. Yeah.
I don't know how they could do it, but yeah.
Well, you confused us when you said a crepe.
I know. I don't know why I was thinking
Cheesecake.
crepe
I would have
place.
never thought of cheesecake.
Cheesecake Factory. But you know, one last thought, Tom. Are you familiar with Ken's salad dressing?
Yes.
You must be in your business. You know, Ken's Steakhouse was a really weird restaurant in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live up there, and they had like 4 or 5 restaurants in one building that were basically all the same.
Right.
It was like old people steakhouse versus another old people steakhouse and yet another old people steakhouse. But their salad dressing business is huge. It's like a $400 or $500 million a year.
We buy salad dressing from them. We use some of their stuff for salads. Yeah.
If you guys, obviously, you've moved to some distribution of some of your stuff into the retail market. Have you thought about doing that with your dressings?
Yeah, we've thought about it. We have some inherent challenges because we make so much, and we don't make 100% of them there, but most of them are made there, and they're not shelf stable. Right? They're fresh, and we believe in fresh.
Yeah,
and
right.
so,
that's been a cornerstone.
it becomes a bit tricky. So if you got to have fresh, that means you got to fight for shelf space in refrigerated aisles. And slotting fees there because there's less space or more. So we may do that someday. It is my intent to focus on building 1,000 domestic restaurants, 500 international restaurants first.
Sounds
But
like
we'll
a
get
plan.
there. And those are the goals for our organization.
And congratulations for getting focused as an entrepreneur on a goal. I just think that's awesome. I mean, seriously.
I guess you aren't. You're
right, man. I mean, it's like that's the hardest thing I've experienced is like just focus on this. Do this right now.
Well, everybody's a little ADD out there that does what we do. Let's be honest.
A little bit. But I think you think about what's important. Like what do you want out of this particular enterprise? I mean, whatever it is, right? Do you want freedom? Do you want money? Do you want lands and titles? Who knows, right? But I think that for me, anyway, and for our team, we're like, if we can execute the goals and the vision that we have today, it is beneficial professionally and financially for everybody.
That's right.
And if we can bring everybody along, which, there's 86 people in our corporate office and over 10,000 people that work for the brand around the world.
That's awesome.
Wow.
We want to bring that entire team of people along on this ride with us. And that's my focus.
That,
they're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it, and it's got to be motivational for you because let's be honest, you could cash out at this point if you wanted to and never work again, but you're still out there working your butt off. Yeah. Okay, and again, another misconception about entrepreneurs: they just want to make as much money as they can for themselves, and they're greedy. Okay, so many people tell us it comes down to helping all these other people you work with, and seeing them succeed is the greatest gratification.
It's the greatest gratification. All our people, all our franchisees. Yeah. And look, we have issues with some, and there's always tension and battles. But if a franchisee can build 20 restaurants and have a $50 million, $60 million business, I mean, that's amazing. And I'm proud of that. They're proud of that. They've created wealth. They've created a business. We all benefit. It's very important that those are the goals. Because, yes, sure, you can make a bunch of money. Right. Can you sell it? Of course. I mean, people call me all the time. You're ready to sell it. But the answer is not yet. I mean, someday maybe. Yeah. But there's more to do. There's more goals to hit. It's fun to hit the goals.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we're doing that.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks
Been a
for
lot of
being
fun. This has been
here.
great. Thanks you guys for having me.
On the
It's
show,
fun.
man.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's been good.
So, well, I guess without further ado, we're going to have to sign off. I hate to say goodbye.
I'll come back. How about
All right, cool.
All right, good.
Good. Mark made you feel sorry enough for him to come back and see it.
So thanks everybody for tuning in, and this has been another episode of
Big Talk about Small Business.
And if you want to sponsor our show,
We welcome it.
we would love to take your
We're
money.
always begging for money.
that's why I'm here. Now I know.
Do you think that Slim?
Hey, I never thought about that. But no.
That's crazy. What a crazy idea.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk about Small Business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.